it's done got completely out of hand what they are trying to introduce your children to while they're at the schoolhouse. Harris opposes book bans. We want to ban assault weapons. They want to ban books has become a favorite rally cry. Meanwhile, Trump favors cutting federal funding for any school or program that includes critical race theory, gender ideology, or other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto our children. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Kaylee on the Spot, and on today's News Flash, we will be discussing what happens to public education under Trump versus Harris. We all know we are a couple of days from the election, and abortion is not the only thing that matters to our American people.
The United States spends more money on education than any other country in the world, and yet we get the worst outcomes. We're at the bottom of every list. In total, American society pours more than $1 trillion a year into public education systems. But instead of being at the top of the list, we are literally right smack, guess what, at the bottom.
With the public education system and colleges still in recovery mode from the COVID-19 pandemic, the election could have sweeping ramifications for the country's students. On the K-12 front, a bitter cultural war over information on race, racism, slavery, equity, LGBTQ issues, and more wages and schools struggle to retain and attract teachers and find solutions to a chronic crisis. The higher education sector, meanwhile, continues to navigate an enrollment cliff as students look for post-high school opportunities other than a degree program to avoid sky-high tuition and student loan debt. It really does hurt my feelings, and it also hurts my heart to hear that so many individuals are scared of a degree program after K through 12 because of the risk of you may have debt or student loans. Good debt and bad debt makes all of the difference. Most of our parents inherited a lot of bad debt, and they are forcing that fear onto our children. You need either a skill, trade, or a degree program to make it in this world. That's what I truly do believe. If you are new to this channel, we are an educated small business family that does believe in education. Reading is fundamental, and we need more educated teachers, parents, and so forth. We wonder why so many children can't read because it's not a household thing that is happening in the home. Harris and Trump offer two starkly different views on the federal government's role in education. Harris advocates for injecting more funding in K-12, especially for increasing teacher pay and breaking segregated school systems. She also supports universal preschool. On the higher education front, expect her to build on the Biden administration pursuit of student loan debt cancellation and boost funding for historically Black colleges and universities. Meanwhile, Trump,
rather than indoctrinating young people with inappropriate racial, sexual, and political material, which is what we're doing now, our schools must be totally refocused to prepare our children to succeed in the world of work and in life and the world of keeping our country strong so they can grow up to be happy, prosperous, and independent citizens. We owe our children great schools that lead to great jobs and leads to an even greater country that we're living in right now. Right now, we're living in a failing nation because of Joe Biden and these people running it. They're Marxists, they're communists. What they're doing to our country is incredible, but we'll take care of that for our children. Here are 10 key ideas that will power our movement for great schools. First, we will respect the right of parents to control the education of their children. Second, we will empower parents and local school board to hire and reward great principals and teachers, and also to fire the poor ones, the one whose performance is unsatisfactory. They will be fired. Like on The Apprentice, you're fired. Third, we will ensure our classrooms are focused not on political indoctrination, but on teaching the knowledge and skills needed to succeed: reading, writing, math, science, arithmetic, and other truly useful subjects. Fourth, we will teach students to love their country, not to hate their country like they're taught right now. Fifth, we will support bringing back prayer to our schools. Sixth, we will achieve schools that are safe, secure, and drug-free, with immediate expulsion for any student who harms a teacher or another student. Seventh, we will give all parents the right to choose another school for their children if they want. It's called school choice. Eighth, we will ensure students have access to project-based learning experiences inside the classroom to help train them for meaningful work outside the classroom. Ninth, we will strive to give all students access to internships and work experiences that can set them on a path to their first job. They're going to be very, very successful. I want them to be more successful than Trump. Let them go out and be more successful. I will be the happiest person in the world. But we want our children to have a great life and be successful. And 10th, we will ensure that all schools provide excellent jobs and career counseling so that high school and college students can get a head start on jobs and careers best suited to their God-given talents. This is how we will ensure a great education for every American child. And one other thing I'll be doing very early in the administration is closing up the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and sending all education and education work and needs back to the states. We want them to run the education of our children because they'll do a much better job of it. You can't do worse. We spend more money per pupil by 3 times than any other nation, and yet we're absolutely at the bottom. We're one of the worst. So you can't do worse. We're going to end education coming out of Washington, D.C. We're going to close it up, all those buildings all over the place, and you have people that in many cases hate our children. We're going to send it all back to the state.
I know a lot of individuals are not first satisfied when they first hear that Trump is interested in abolishing the Department of Education. If he cancels Department of Education, it's not really a bad thing because now it will be going straight to the states. The states will have the say-so on what they do and what they don't want for their school system. Despite the Supreme Court's block of the Biden-Harris administration's sweeping student loan debt cancellation plan last summer, providing relief to borrowers has been one of the biggest policy wins of the last 4 years. As it stands, the Education Department has overseen the cancellation of $160 billion for 4.6 million loan borrowers, including for those who went into public service careers, those who became disabled, those defrauded by their schools, or whose school suddenly closed, and others. The newest cancellation plan it's pursuing would wipe out billions more for as many as 30 million borrowers, including 23 million who will have all their interest canceled if their balance is more than it was when they started paying back their loans. While the issue of loan forgiveness has been tricky for Biden, who needed convincing before fully supporting it, Harris is all in. It remains a top priority for progressive wing of the Democratic Party, which sees it as a path to racial equity. It's not up for the federal government to say, hey, let's cancel all of these individuals that decided they want to go to school and then make our taxpayer pay for it. It has to be in the best interest of all parties, That's why we have to have that balance. Balance is very important. We can't just shift the beam all the way over here. We have to have that balance. And I honestly, as a college educated graduate person, do not think that it should be up on the next person. If they didn't even want to go to school themselves, they shouldn't have to inherit and basically take on all of my choices and decisions because I wanted to go to school. Are we here on that? I think so, because I've seen a lot of different people basically voicing their opinion that they did not agree with them having to take on other people's debt. And outside of school, that's true. You don't necessarily want to get married to an individual that has $1 trillion in debt, right? We don't want that. Trump, on the other hand, is opposed to sweeping student loan debt cancellation, having applauded the Supreme Court ruling that blocked Biden's plan. Trump has talked more about lowering costs and holding colleges and universities accountable for their ability for paying their student loans back. I agree. I would have to agree. If you decided that you want to go to school, you should be responsible in knowing all of the different things that you can do to not go in default. It's a lot of different ways that you don't even have to repay back. You stay out of default and you can still go to school further if you decide if you want to go to master's or if you want to get a bachelor's if you have an associate. And if you have a doctorate, if you have a master's, you can go get a doctorate. It all really just depends. But you have to stay in contact with your loan borrower, and they will give you all of the different resources that you can use to help you repay your loans or stay at default. And if you do, guess what? It will help your credit. So your loan borrower is your best friend. Trump, like Biden, also supports income-driven repayment plans. Though he will also certainly reverse the Biden administration's newest repayment plan, known as SAVE, the plan, which was on track to cut debt in half for millions of borrowers beginning in July, is on hold until 2 Republican-backed lawsuits claiming the plan is an overreach of executive authority are resolved. Income-driven repayment plans is one of the different resources that your loan borrower can help you on if you decide to call them and let them know, hey, I have over $100,000 in loans. This is what my income is right now. Things are pretty expensive. What can you guys do to where I don't go in default, but I still get some type of action going for my repayment of loans? They will give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different options that will be within your budget, or they will say, you don't even make enough to make a payment. So therefore, we're going to put you on an income-driven repayment plan. That way you are in a status that it will not hurt your credit or put you in default. That's the key. While neither Biden nor Trump, or even Congress for that matter, is supposed to be able to set standards or curriculum, the power of the bully pulpit comes into play. Harris opposes book bans. We want to ban assault weapons. They want to ban books has become a favorite rally cry. Meanwhile, Trump favors cutting federal funding for any school or program that includes critical race theory, gender ideology, or other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto our children. And man, why must I agree? I could not agree with that any further. It's done got out of hand. It's done got completely out of hand what they are trying to introduce your children to while they're at the schoolhouse. It's ridiculous on what they're trying to push on these undeveloped minds. Our minds grow definitely until about 21, 25, but you can continue to put positive things, unlearn bad habits, as long as you are not around bad influences or adopt the how I think. A lot of these individuals have adopted the how I think mentality, and that's why we have this. This is ridiculous. Which makes it so much more sick is that Kamala Harris doesn't even have biological children. Now, I'm saying that to say that if one cannot have children, you're still going to love a child as if it came out of you. As a woman, to sit up here and try to introduce all of these things onto a child tells me that she does not have a heart. She's being very much so inhumane, especially with them saying that you can have an abortion up until 38 weeks. And then you want to ban books. You want to ban assault weapons. You want to ban racial material. These things happen. These things are very important for our children to know for their history and culture. So who are you to say that they need to ban all of this stuff? Because why? Because you guys are tired of them looking at you guys like, why have you guys done this stuff to us? Why would you want to ban this information if you see the value of education? You can't just only teach them what you want to know. What are we learning out of this LGBTQ? A fifth grader, what are they learning about that? But if you teach them their history, if you teach them their culture, if you teach them the amendments, the Second Amendment, and you're trying to ban the Second Amendment, you don't even want the child to know that the Second Amendment even exists. Why? Why? I would never understand it. With that being said, that is why we homeschool our child. We have been homeschooling them since 2019, and it has been going great because it has then gotten out of hand. I understand a lot of parents have different careers if they cannot do so, but please reconsider sending your child to school, whether maybe it needs to be to a different school, but please view at least the curriculum that your child is going to be learning for the year. Please read your child's permission slips, do some research on where they'll be going, become a chaperone, because it's getting out of hand. The federal government is expressly barred from giving directives regarding school curriculum or providing incentives for states and school districts to adopt certain curricula. While choosing course material has always been the responsibility of states and school districts, you now have scammer Kamala Harris trying to make it a federal government issue. Was one of the most significant provisions in the bipartisan Every Student Succeeds Act, which makes the biggest devotion, yet the political mudslinging over the Obama-era Common Core state standards cast a long shadow. And what began as an earnest conversation about how to increase education attainment for kids sparked a bitter culture war that only grown in intensity today. A lot of parents aren't with that. A lot of parents are not with that. That's why it makes it so sick that the far left individual is only trying to put the abortion in our faces. Like that is the only thing that matters. But yet you have school war, you have immigration war, you have inflation war. They're not talking about any of that stuff. The latest battle traces its roots to the Trump administration, which established the 1776 Commission to promote patriotic education. The effort was a rebuke to the prize-winning 1619 Project from the New York Times, and the momentum growing among school districts in adopting a more diverse history curriculum around slavery and how it fueled inequality in the U.S. At the time, there was a national reckoning occurring over the impact of systemic racism, as well as a legitimate crisis in civics education. The most recent National Assessment of Educational Progress found that just 15% of 8th graders are proficient in U.S. history. And you know why that is? Because they're teaching a lot of baloney in U.S. history. Those critical of the push for states and school districts to emphasize a view of U.S. history that examines more deeply the generational impacts of some of the country's ugliest moments argue that it amounts to revisionism and promotes division, negativity, and shaming in identifying as an American. That is so true. Everybody want to be other cultures or from other countries than America, because they really are teaching you not to like your own kind, your own people, your own country in the schoolhouse. So it's not surprising when we are having the ugliest moments that promotes division, negativity, and shame in identifying as an American. Because that's what they preach and that's what they glorify on the TV, the entertainers, the celebrities. You even have Kamala Harris up there acting like she's a Latino. And then you hear the next minute she's a Jamaican. And then you hear the next minute she's proud to be an American. We're seeing it right in our faces. And it's a joke. It's a joke. Advocates say that embracing the hard lessons will better equip students to strive for the ideals of democracy on which the country was founded. As it stands, dozens of states have enacted more than 120 laws and policies reshaping the teaching of race, racism, sexual orientation, and gender identity, impacting how 3/4 of the nation's students learn about issues like slavery, the civil rights movement, and feminism. Across the country, 36 states have enacted policies that counsel education on racism, bias, the contributions of specific racial or ethnic groups to U.S. history or related topics. What are the children supposed to learn if they are not learning about what they need to learn about? Why is it important for a child to learn about sex change, LGBTQ issues in the schoolhouse when they can learn that anywhere in their free time? You're not going to get a job. You're not going to be at a job interview and they're going to quiz you about LGBTQ after K-12. However, you may get asked what's 2 + 2 if you're a cash register. If they're prioritizing sex change operations over 2 + 2, when it's time for this individual to be the cash register, they won't even know where to start. In short, in school, you're supposed to be learning things that will help you develop in your career as you get older. Unless you're going to be a doctor or some sort like that, and all children aren't going to be so. Therefore, you have to stick it with curriculums that is okay across the boards. It's so sick how they, put this curriculum in there. They're still not allowing parents to go to the back of the school to walk their children to class like they used to. You don't know what's going on in there. But you're getting told you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. Your child need to get a vaccine to go to school. It's just a mess. It really is. According to Education Week's ongoing analysis, 14 states have introduced bills or taken other steps since January 2021 that would restrict teaching or limit how teachers can discuss racism and sexism. 17 states are imposing these bans and restricting either through legislation or avenues. That's exactly why, as American people, we do not need the Department of Education, because that's a lot of money that could be sprinkled into a lot of other things that would actually help the American people. Put into the states are going to do what they want to do anyway. And if you happen to be in the state once Donald Trump wins and he cancels the Department of Education, you may have to just either A, homeschool your child because that's better for them anyway, or two, B, uproot into a state that you like their laws, curriculum, teachings, and so forth. But we all shouldn't have to just suffer and have the Department of Education have your children be so brainwashed and just out of touch and really fearful and confused, because that's all that it's doing, is indoctrinating our children with all of this mess. And then when they get older, we wonder why they need a calculator to do 1 + 1, or how they don't know how to read but know how to do TikTok dances, or it's just a mess. We need to put all the fundamental things from when myself was in school, when you were in school, back into the schoolhouse, that way we can have more productive children out here. Ones that want more out of life. Right now, our children don't want nothing but to be on TikTok. That's because what they are being put in front of them. I was in the store the other day. It was this girl. She was dancing all the way out, and that's cool, but it's a time and a place for that. But it has become so overwhelming that for these children that they don't even care. The parents don't care. We have to care, but you know what? It starts out with the government. The government, and then it trickles down. Once we get a better government in office, then I truly do believe that our public school systems and things are going to be better. There you guys have it. That is your political update for today. I will catch you guys on the next one. If you have not done so already, hit the subscribe button. It really does help us out a lot. We will see you guys on the next one. Don't forget, the election is coming up, and we will see you guys.